internationally, mashallah. His soft folk album, Majnoons, Lost Memoirs, can be heard in cafes and concert halls all over the globe. Mashallah, tabarakallah, I'm grateful for him being here, and we all welcome him beautifully. So everybody give him a round of applause, inshallah. Jazakallah khair. Without further ado, this is brother Baraka Blue. I didn't mean to rhyme, it just came out that way.
Bismillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. MashaAllah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyid al-Mursaleen wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam ajma'in. It was a great idea to dim the lights, mashallah. Poetry is supposed to be a bit intimate, you know. Mashallah. First and foremost, I really want to thank everybody from this masjid for having me. It's a blessing to be here. This is my second time here. I was here first, as many of you we probably met at the kind of grand opening event for this masjid with Celebrate Mercy. And so it's a blessing to be back here, and of course it's a blessing to be with a dear friend, Imam Muhammad Mendes, who is a gem, as you all know. Tonight, inshallah, I'm going to recite a bit of poetry, share a bit of reflection, stories, speak about my journey, and then we're going to open it up for some discussion, inshallah. I want to begin with a poem that is also a dua. As we know in our tradition, everything worth doing is worth beginning with a dua. But I especially like to begin with this piece because every line of the poem, you get to be my co-poets in this poem. And your role is to say Ameen after every line. Are you guys ready for that? Inshallah. And as we know, one of the secrets of everyone saying Ameen together is one, that it syncs our hearts together. And two, that it is hoped that Allah will answer that prayer according to the most sincere person in the room. And of course, that's hidden, and it's usually not the person on stage. That's a secret I'll tell you. You guys ready? May your day be filled with love and light. Amen. May your wrongs be right. Amen. May your songs be tight. Amen. May your words give sight. Amen. May your nur shine bright. Amen. May you always be on the righteous side of the fight. Amen. May your lovers be loyal. May your soil be fertile. May your khakis stay creased, may your locks stay oiled. May your plans never get foiled. May your plot thicken. May your chicken be halal. May your style be sufficient. May your soul be free of its prison. May Allah increase you in your vision. May you find everything you've been missing. May you awake for prayer before the sun has risen. When you speak, may your audience listen. May you never feel trapped in the system. May you sire many righteous children who will act on prophetic tradition. May you always have food on your plate. May you learn from every mistake. May you rise above all the hate, and may Allah increase you in your state. May you never pretend that you are what you ain't. May your friends be real and never be fake. May your rent never have to be late, and may your health always be great. May Allah forgive every sin, now and forever if you falter again. And may you always stay close with your kin, and may He make all your enemies friends. May He make reality of your plans. May your present be pleasant, may you have a good end. May your heart be purified of its flaws, and may you act according to the laws that were revealed in the book of Allah, and may He catch you whenever you fall. May the One guide you to the truth. When you doubt, may He show you the proof. May you be like the Ahl as-Suf, with the wisdom of the elders, the energy of the youth. May He accept your prayers and your fasts, the very first all the way to the last, and remove obstacles that you have. And may you receive everything that you ask. May you never have regret for your past, and receive mercy, not the wrath. And as you travel down your personal path, may you always have a reason to laugh. Ameen. Give yourself a round of applause, inshallah. Inshallah, the hearts are synced now. Inshallah. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. Can you imagine one who was the gentlest of men, while being the most brave and just of all who've been? One who conquered all desires of self that make men weak, who granted all who asked him precisely what they seek, whom only jewels poured out his mouth whenever he would speak, who was the gem amongst the stones of men who shined unique. A selflessness and generosity that some would say was merely myth, until they'd seen the lovers of his way, who used to mend his sandals and used to patch his clothes, who used to serve his family whenever he was home, who had a noble shyness, not gazing long upon a face, who honored all he ever met, be they king or be they slave, who always found himself at home the most amongst the poor, who never angered for himself, but only for his Lord, always just, always truthful, conscious of the one, even if it brought discomfort to himself and those he loved. A satiated stomach his whole life was rarely felt, not due to poverty, but preference of others to himself, who knew the time of day by sun and the direction by the stars, who would walk amongst his enemies without a single guard, devoid of any lower self, just humble and serene, eloquent but not verbose, just precisely what he means, whom all within his company felt light and sacred cheer, whom there was not a thing within creation that he feared, who loved to play with children and run races with his wives, who would join the festivities and honor customs of all tribes. When people yelled and lost their cool around him, he was calm, who asked forgiveness for his enemies, even as they did him wrong, who kept a goat he'd milk himself for people in his house, whose wives, when asked about him, said he was the perfect spouse, who never looked down on a pauper or flattered once a prince, but called every soul unto the one without even a flinch. Every single gorgeous trait of character he had, of noble lineage, yet he was the orphan of his clan. One imbued with wisdom and piercing inner sight, yet he was the unlettered one, who would neither read nor write. All knowledge and trait of character unflawed were placed inside his very being, directly by Allah. The way to salvation and triumph after death, to detachment and joy in life with each and every breath. To walk the righteous path and never falter, come what may, and may Allah give us success in following his way. They call him El-Amin, the trustworthy, the honest, and we call him beloved, our master, Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala sayyidina. Thank you. Sometimes Muslims aren't sure whether to clap or takbir. So now that we've clapped, takbir. I was in the UK and I was in a school for a Muslim school. And I was doing some poems with the kids. And mashallah, we did the Ameen one and they loved that because they were like, Ameen, Ameen. And then I did another poem and they kept screaming Ameen. I was like, no, I'm not. But after the Ameen one, I told them, I said, give yourself a round of applause, you guys did great. And there was an uncle in the masjid, and he said, no clapping in the masjid. So I was like, Takbir! Alhamdulillah, mashallah. So, the beautiful title for this event is about waking and dreaming. Waking and dreaming. And amongst the beautiful words of our beloved Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he has a few specific hadith about dreaming, which really moved me. And the first one, which is so profound, and really we could reflect on it for the rest of our lives, and many lifetimes perhaps, is that people are sleeping. People are dreaming. And when they die, they wake up. That this world itself is a type of dream. And to be a believer is to believe that this is a dream, and to believe that we will wake up. And we all know how real certain dreams feel. But then we wake up and it's, oh yeah. So to believe is to say this is a dream, even if I forget it's a dream sometime. And the goal, of course, is to become a lucid dreamer. Has anyone ever had a lucid dream? Lucid dream is the term they give when you realize you're dreaming while dreaming, but stay in the dream. And that's the goal of being a believer. And in that theme, the Prophet ﷺ is also reported to have said, die before you die. So man and woman, we, all of us, are dreaming. And when we die, we wake up. And die before you die. Wake up before you wake up. This is the Prophet ﷺ commanding us, encouraging us to wake up, to become lucid dreamers in the dream. And one of the beautiful hadith, one of the foundational hadith of our tradition is the hadith of Jibril, of Gabriel. We all know when Gabriel came in the form of a man to the beloved Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and asked him a few questions. What is Islam? What is Iman? What is Ihsan? And the Prophet ﷺ answered, and when he got to Ihsan, the Prophet ﷺ said, it is to worship Allah as if you see Him. And if you don't see Him, to know that He sees you. So it's a really powerful and profound statement. So if we were to rework that in a poetic way, vis-a-vis those other two hadith, we could say, live this dream as if you are awake. And if you are not awake, know that the awake is watching you dream. Ameen, inshallah. May we be awakened ones, inshallah. Bi-idhnillah ta'ala. That poem that I recited about the Prophet ﷺ actually was inspired by a book called the Ihya al-Medina of Imam al-Ghazali, one of the great scholars of our tradition. And he wrote 40 books which touch on every aspect of human existence. But the book that he put in the center of that is the 20th book. And that is the book describing the Prophet ﷺ's character. And it's very intentional that he put that in the center because we are human beings and we need human examples. And so he wrote that as if to say, this is what holds it all together. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And so that description was essentially, I put it in poetic form, a passage from the Ihya. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. So here we are in the dream. Did you forget you were in a dream already? I think some of us forgot, but we thought it's real, right? And it's a constant struggle to remember that we're dreaming. And because we are Bani Adam, we're insan. They say that insan comes from two roots, potentially. Uns, which is intimacy. Because we all know that Allah is closer to us than our jugular vein. And that we were all, before this realm, in the divine presence. In the Quran, we know that all human souls, before we came into this realm, we were on what's called the plane of Alastu bi Rabbikum, as you all know. And this is the spiritual realm, the realm of souls. And Imam Mendes mentioned beautifully in the khutbah today that I believe it was in the khutbah, that you don't have a spirit. You are a spirit. You have a body. And this is the reality, is that our ruh, arwah, our spirits are from that realm, witnessing in the divine presence, knowing Allah. And that is the realm of perfect peace and beauty. And that we were taken out of that realm and came into the realm with these physical bodies, but in a sense we're spirits that are wearing meat spacesuits that allow us to navigate this hostile terrain and breathe its air. But we're extraterrestrials. We're extraterrestrials. And we crave that intimacy, that uns. But also the second root is nasya, which means to forget, because we also forget our true nature. And so man was created forgetful. Before sharing a few more pieces, I wanted to reflect a little bit on the way that I was drawn to the deen of La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. And it actually had to do, ironically, with poetry. And it was particularly the poetry of someone who many of you may know, named Maulana Jalaluddin Rumi. Who's familiar with his works? I heard Sheikh Mendes also mention Iqbal. And I know, mashallah, for those who are from the Indian subcontinent, the Urdu-speaking world, he's a giant. And I came to fall in love with him after. But Rumi was first. And like Iqbal, like the many great Muslim poets that articulated the depth of this deen in every language that Islam spread, it was clear to me, because I was a poet and a songwriter before I was Muslim, and I loved alliteration, and I loved metaphor, and I loved simile, and all the qualities of poetic language, but it was clear to me that it wasn't just that Maulana Rumi was good with language, but it was more so that there was something behind the words. That it's almost as if the words were just overflowing out of his state, out of his heart. And that's what I wanted to know more about. And of course, many of you know Maulana Rumi. I'm not alone, because he is the #1 selling poet in America. MashaAllah. And many people, of course, they just think that it's all about, wine and the beloved, and don't necessarily know the symbolic meanings that he's getting at. But in any case, it also is a door for many people to see the beauty and the depth of Islam. MashaAllah. I always say about Islam, we have the best product, quote unquote, but the worst branding and marketing. So, what's amazing about Maulana Rumi is that many things, but he has a book called the Mathnawi, as many of you know, which is rhyming couplets. It's an epic poem, longer than the Iliad and the Odyssey combined. And at the beginning he says, this is the root of the root of the root of the deen. It's a commentary on the inner meanings of the Quran. And he tells many, many stories in that book. And it's incredibly beautiful. But what he really wants to get at is that all of the stories in the Quran are inside of you, which was another theme that Sheikh Mendes spoke about today. That everything in the Quran is inside of you. So as he mentioned, don't just think once upon a time there was a Pharaoh, a bad man, when you read the Quran. That's not the point. The point is that you have a Pharaoh inside of you. That nafs al-amara bisu, that lower tyrant that wants to be worshipped, wants to be praised, that even rises up against Allah and His commandments. And one of the beautiful stories of Maulana Rumi, he says one day Jesus was riding on his donkey, and Jesus was drunk on God, and the donkey was drunk on barley. And so he tells these funny stories, but there's profound depth in them. Because he's speaking symbolically, because what Rumi is saying is that Jesus in the Quran is called the Ruh Allah, the Spirit from God. But we also have a ruach, a spirit from God, don't we? So what Maulana is saying, we also have a Jesus. Each one of us has a Jesus in potentia. So, okay, you can feel that feels kind of nice, right? I have a Jesus. But you also have a donkey, so don't get ahead of yourself too much. Right? And what's really profound about that is he's saying that that lower self, the barley, of course, is the cheapest of the grains. And all of the things that people chase in this world, wealth and power and prestige and etc., they're just lowly. They're just part of it. But the donkey does get drunk on that. Maulana is saying, upgrade your intoxicants. There's a higher intoxication than that, more worthy of who you truly are. And the spirit, in fact, it can't actually be satisfied with being intoxicated with other than God. But at the beginning of this epic poem, which had a huge impact, of course, all throughout the Persian world, and as you all know, and is arguably the most commentated upon book in Islamic history after the Quran. Maulana Rumi tells the story of the reed flute. And he says, listen to the sound of the reed as it tells a tale, complaining of its separation. Anything or anyone who's been severed from its source, yearns for the moment of return. So give me a breast that is torn by this severance, so that I may unfold to such a one the pain of this love desire. And he goes on, but this is how he begins this great epic poem. And the symbolism is really profound, because when Maulana would write, and for those of you young people that are like myself of the hip-hop generation, you can probably appreciate that, is that Maulana Rumi, he actually never wrote a line of his own poetry. That he would sit and they would sing and they would chant the names of God and they would play music. They would play flutes, the reed flute, and beat the drum. And he would wait for the inspiration to come. He would wait for the words to come to him. And then he would recite. And when he recited, then his chief disciple, Hussam ad-Din Chalabi, would write. So everything that Rumi wrote was actually a freestyle. He was freestyling. Everything. And this was how he chose to communicate depth and profundity, because Hussam ad-Din would become the sheikh after him. But this was how he communicated the teachings. In any case, when he heard that reed, he said, listen to the sound of the reed. It's telling you something. It's not just musical notes, but it's speaking to you. And this is the message of the Prophet ﷺ and his inheritors, is that everything is speaking to us. Because it's a dream. And the dream is to be interpreted. There's symbols in the dream. What does it mean? If you drink milk in a dream, it means something. If you get served water in the dream, it means something else. And he said the reed, it's from the riverbed where it grows, but it's cut. And then it dies, essentially. But then it's carved into and given 7 holes like the human being. And then it's given breath in the gathering of the lovers. And it comes back to life. And it comes back to life weeping and wailing. Because the reed is one of those instruments that is intensely beautiful, but its beauty is interwoven with its sadness. It sounds sad. It has a melancholy. So hearing it will make you yearn for something, or recall something, or reminisce about something. And what Maulana Rumi is saying is that the reed is us. That we are all reed flutes. Because we are from another place. We are from the riverbed of Alastu Birabikum. We are from the riverbed of witnessing Allah in the spiritual realm. But we were taken out of that. And we came into this realm, and the breath was blown into us. And then we came back to this light, and we came into this world weeping and wailing, right? Each one of us came through our mother's womb portal weeping and wailing. And so he's saying that each human being is playing out their desire to return to their Creator. Even if it might be off pitch or off beat, some of our songs, but just see that. And it's a beautiful way also to see people through the eye of mercy. Because some people are trying to fill that yearning through drugs and alcohol, or through entertainment. For in a moment they can get lost in the moment of their team, and right, they can lose their sense of self in the larger experience of a moment or of a movie theater or any number of things. But it's really designed to fulfill that yearning and that longing for completion, which we knew in that realm. So then we wake up in the dream, inshallah. I'm going to recite some newer poems, inshallah. Allahumma salli ala sayyidina Muhammad. Beyond stars, beyond ours, beyond planets and spheres, beyond quarks and quasars, beyond far, beyond near, beyond space, beyond time, beyond nations and climes, beyond what we beyond beings and signs, beyond letters, beyond words, beyond spoken and heard, beyond everything that will and will never occur, beyond every number and shape you could ever conjure, beyond, ad infinitum absurd, beyond present, beyond presence, beyond the center and edges, beyond measure, beyond measured, beyond breath and the essence, beyond less than is more and more or less, and the lessons of every messenger sent and every saint that ascended. The seven heavens and escaped the veil of self in the presence and rent the illusion asunder in a thunder of blessings, where the lovers, the ascetics, and the mystical brethren dip forever, reverently in the rivers of heaven. Beyond all that, and all the pen could etch on the dead skin, beyond all recollection, every answer and question, every medicine, every poison, every tool, every weapon, beyond every poor fool who ever tried to express them, beyond a him or her with all these feeble expressions, and all tongues prostrate for God's sake and direction, beyond the veil that separates from beyond what is destined, be and we were yonder realm that we already met in. All praise to the beyond what they ascribe and profess and associate and describe and debate in their lessons. So beyond that it is nearer than the vein in your neck and the thought to your mind and the mirror to the reflection. So let us pause here for reflection. For that is the secret that gives perception to the blind and gives the intellect to fall prostrate by design. For when you reach the furthest reaches of beyond, it appears that the only thing beyond this beyond is the near. فإني قريب. Thank you. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammad. Bismillah. So I want to recite a few more, but I don't want to take too much time because I would like to open it up for others to share and discuss. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. MashaAllah. Do we have any mothers here? Raise your hand if you're a mother. MashaAllah. Thank you for being here. Alhamdulillah. I see some people feeling left out, so do we have any children of mothers here? Raise your hand if you're a child of a mother. Alhamdulillah. We're all here. And we're all here because of a mother. Mothers are so important, not just because we wouldn't be here without them, but because our Prophet ﷺ told us that. I'll just recite the poem, inshallah. This is called To Mothers. To mothers. To those mothers who buttered sandwiches and lit love's lanterns when sweet dreams turned to nightmares, and cloaked us in radiant safety net bear hugs under covers, and sacrificed many a night's sleep like a coat over a puddle so our pillows stayed dry, and evaporated tears when we would cry, and smiled at the clouds till they bowed gracefully to a blue sky. To those mothers who allowed faces to hide in pant legs when we were shy, from strangers or neighbors or distant family members who just came to say hi, and who explained with true amazement the transformation of a caterpillar to a butterfly. To those mothers who buttered sandwiches and read books over and over again, till she could just about noose Dr. Seuss. But when that, please, mommy, please, eyes plead, mouth squeeze, chubby cheeks, gap teeth, her heart melts, and she reads, just one more time. And those words become sweet in her mouth because that warm ball of innocent trust in her curls up on her shoulder. And she knows no sound sweeter than hearing him breathe. And when that breathing gets deep, she looks deep into that glowing innocence, and her heart weeps with overwhelming mercy, for she is accessing the feeling nearest to God a human being can experience. Love. Unconditional mercy. Compassionate love. True, selfless, gentle, nurturing, life-giving, soul-cleansing, spirit-raising love. For those mothers who buttered sandwiches and taught young boys in a society so sick and deprived of love to love, and young girls to find love deep within themselves, and watered seeds to full-blown flowers unfolding petals gracefully in concrete habitats, and old rusty ramshackle shacks in any desert or countryside anywhere and everywhere that mothers butter sandwiches, or split coconuts, or make curries, or milk goats, or steam rice, or warm bottles on stoves, or in microwaves, or hang clothes on lines in the sunshine. This is for those mothers who raise children to be lovers, and let youngins hog all the covers, who go to sleep last making school lunches, who wake up first making breakfast and assembling outfits, who struggle and strain and bear the pain and don't complain, but smile. This is for mothers who had to be fathers and mothers, and had to hide tears because there was no time for her own when she was wiping away everyone else's. This is for mothers who never knew selfish and never felt they deserved a congratulations or a celebration or a high station or a standing ovation. But you do, all of you. And this is for mothers who bore abuse, both physical and mental, from men who had mothers too, who raised them like you, but forgot what they taught. And this is my pledge: I will not forget. For every woman is a potential mother, and is a daughter who was an innocent ball of trust, who was held by a mother who buttered sandwiches, if she was lucky. And if not, all the more reason to treat her like a mother would treat her who loved her, and peanut butter sandwiches. And this is for my mother, the one I owe love to, because you are the one I know love through. You are the closest thing I've ever known to purity, to sincere, overwhelming, overpowering, unconditional love and mercy overflowing from your heart through your eyes when you look at me. Everything good in me is from you. And it is such an understatement to say, but it is the most powerful thing mere language can convey. I love you. And I love you all. Thank you for listening. MashaAllah. MashaAllah. Obviously, I could recite poems all night long, but I don't want to be selfish and take your time. Let's see if I have one called Patience, because you've all been very patient. I'm going to see if I can remember this. This is a new poem, so if I forget midway, please forgive me. Please have patience. It's called Patience. One of the names of Allah is Patience. Isn't that beautiful? Sabur. There was a station called Patience that few had attained. Most got off before that stop and only knew it in name. Those who basked in the sun but didn't care for the rain were perplexed at those few who remained on the train. Paid them no mind and were blind to the secrets they knew, like the brightest colors high in the deepest of blues. For opposite the direction most people pursue, there is a station called Patience, only known by a few. It may not have the bright lights and the games that amuse, but its beauty exceeds anything that they knew. The other stations always look shiny and new, but this station looks simple and thus hidden from view. Those who found patience seemed to find it by chance. Perhaps they fell asleep on the train and woke up in its trance. Maybe a dream they had had where the question was asked, is there more to this place than appears at first glance? Some were forced there when the cost of living was high, where the struggles and the troubles had chased them inside. But those who entered her tavern and drank from her wine found the place they called Patience was a station divine. For what looked to be ruins to the ones that passed by, as they scoffed or they pitied those living inside. Patience people looked back and they pitied their pride, which veiled them from seeing what only patience could reveal or could hide. Patience is a trust the other stations refused. It infuses and transforms mortal vision anew. Patience is not merely waiting, though they're often confused. Patience is a station you awaken into. Once you find the one for whom patience is due, you'll see a mysterious relation between patience and you. Like a long-lost memory that finally came into view, you'll see that patience has been patiently waiting for you. Thank you. So I may recite one more to close, but in the meantime, I don't know how much time we are, or we have, rather, but I would love if anybody has any 10 minutes. Okay, he was doing some hand signal. Okay, we got more than 10 minutes, 20 minutes. So is there anybody who has any reflections or anything they'd like to share? Please feel free to speak up.
Someone was driving, and on the way to driving, saw a person in gold. He said, "Who are you?" He said, "I am gold." He said, "Okay, come into the car." So he kept driving and driving. He said, "Someone green." He said, "Who are you?" He said, "I am money." He said, "Get in the car." So somebody went, they kept driving. They saw someone in white. They said, "Who are you?" He said, "Righteous action." He said, "Wait, I got enough people in the car." So they kept going. Then eventually, they saw someone dressed in black. They said, "Who are you?" "I'm the angel of death." He said, "I can't go back." So it's something that reminded me of fear.
It was very interesting you spoke about Rumi, and I'm reading a lot about history and how Rumi is published in the US and other places where it's somewhat secularized.
Yes.
I'm just curious how you access the more spiritual aspect of Rumi if the translations tend to be presented without relevance to our religion.
Yeah, did everyone hear him? There was a question about the popular translations of Maulana Jalaluddin Rumi, which there are many translators out there. The most popular is Coleman Barks. And those are the first ones that most people come across, including myself. I actually, I appreciate them. I think Coleman Barks, he's a wonderful poet, and he works from, he doesn't actually speak Persian, so he works from Nicholson's translations mostly, which are very dry and academic, but very accurate. And in fact, Nicholson was, people say bad things about Orientalists, right? But it's so much more nuanced. Nicholson is someone who literally went blind. He lost his eyesight poring over manuscripts of the great works of Islamic spirituality so that they could be translated into English. He literally gave his eyes so that we could read these works. In any case, they're very dry and academic, but they're accurate. So Coleman Barks works with those. And so he's working from the originals, but anytime you do translation, you're going to have to make decisions. And Coleman Barks often makes decisions which is him taking the meanings as he understands them and putting them in a way that the average Westerner will understand. That often means he does de-Islamicize to a certain extent. And that's a choice that he makes. And part of it is because a lot of the Western audience wouldn't understand the Islamic references, frankly. So it is good to know that with a lot of popular translation, Coleman Barks, for instance, it's about half Rumi, half Coleman Barks. So it's good to know that. But there are, when you dive deeper, there are a lot of really good translations. Nicholson's a good place to start, even though it's dry and academic, but you get accurate meaning. William Chittick, who's in upstate New York, has done some amazing translations of Rumi and others, but he's a good example of very accurate. But I mean, we only have ourselves to blame. Because it's like, a lot of Muslims complain, like non-Muslims are claiming Rumi or translating Rumi. It's like, hey, why aren't we doing it then? You know what I mean? Like, why aren't we holding up the flag of the most beloved poet in America? You know? So, but it's a good question. It's really interesting. And Coleman Barks was a student of someone that actually buried not too far away from here, named Baba Muhyiddin. Yeah. Sure. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
I mean, just as far as the reflection is concerned, like, I was imagining what you were sharing could be shared anywhere. And I was specifically thinking about like how it would land so naturally for somebody who, whether they were Muslim or not, they might not be able to get every reference and every nuance, but like it had a natural value to it without necessarily being down. And I like really kind of see that as something that is kind of like the fruit of reflection, right? That it creates a space where anybody can kind of get on that plane because you're talking, which is reference what you were speaking about. It speaks to something that's primordial.
Yes. Beautiful. Amen. That's beautiful words. We strive for that. And, you know, mashallah, a lot of people convert to Islam and then they forget how to speak to their people, right? They think, I gotta wear shalwar kameez and I gotta, you know, eat curry for suhoor. I love curry, by the way, and I wear shalwar kameez. I'm not making fun, mashallah. But also, you know, when I did Qiyamul Layl at the masjid, the Pakistani masjid in Seattle, beautiful masjid. But man, they had the spiciest curry for suhoor. I was like, I can't, like, give me some Cheerios or something, you know? I can't do it, you know? But it's a real thing, and I think a lot of converts go on this journey of self-transformation and wanting to change themselves and wanting to transform themselves, and not just converts, by the way, but anyone who's born Muslim but then also has an opening and desires to take the path. And then at some point you kind of, I think, come full circle and realize that there are certain things you have to change and there are certain things that you don't have to change and there are certain things you can't change and you mustn't change. And it's forbidden for you to change. And others it's disliked for you to change. So, you know, I do feel that, you know, yeah, we have to speak to our people and we have to. The Prophet ﷺ is our guide and his utmost concern was for his people. Even when they, on the battlefield, struck him and he bled, he tried to catch his own blood so it wouldn't hit the soil. Because he said if the blood of a prophet touches the soil, then the people are in deep trouble. If they struck their own prophet, and he made dua, Ya qawm, oh my people. So, yeah, I mean, you know, we should have a deep concern for all people, and we should be interested in how we can, because Islam is universal, and it is a universal path and a universal tradition. And we have to be interested in how we can articulate that and how it can speak to people. And that does take some knowledge of Islam and of our culture. So may Allah give us tawfiq in that. And it's really not all that simple too. I remember I was in the Bay Area at Ta'leef and our dear beloved brother Sama Cannon, may Allah give him shifa and bless him. There was a new convert, he was from a Filipino background, he was very proud of his, mashallah, Pinoy, like very proud. And he was like, I want to be fully Muslim, but I want to be fully Filipino, how do I do it? And Sama gave the most simple answer, but it, you know, as many wisdoms are so simple, but they're so deep. And he said, all you need to do is understand Islam well and understand your culture well, and you have no problem. And unfortunately, many Muslims don't know Islam and or their culture well. And, you know, mashallah, it's like there was there was a brother who came up to me, and and I appreciate it because he did it with Edeb actually, so it's not nothing against him, but he wanted to talk to me about my braid, my long hair, and that it's braided. And he really wanted to know, like, okay, we need to talk about this. And I just met him too. This is the first thing he wanted to talk about. And he said, basically he was asking about it and was saying, like, I know this is from your culture and this is from the West, this is from America, but at what point do we, you know what I mean? Like, where's this on the culture? He was getting at this question. And it elucidated something so profound for me as I was hearing him say that, because I realized he didn't know. The very thing he was concerned that I was doing, putting my culture over Islam, that he was actually doing. Because in his culture, men having long hair is a sign of maybe being effeminate or being some other type of thing. But he didn't know that the Prophet ﷺ used to braid his long, beautiful hair, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So he was putting his culture actually in front of the beloved sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, because he didn't know that the Prophet ﷺ would braid his hair when he went on the battlefield. And he would braid his hair when he went to visit tribes that braided their hair to honor their culture. So of course I didn't take offense because, but the point is that these things are very nuanced. And may we be universal people. The Prophet ﷺ was a universal man. And we need to be that way. And you don't need to leave your culture, leave your tradition to do that. Bil'aks, actually you need to, if you're truly, who was more Arab than the Prophet ﷺ? But who was more universal than him? And if you're rooted, then you will be able to spread your branches everywhere, you know. So may we be rooted and may we be universal men and women, inshallah. Anybody have any questions or thoughts? Yes, brother.
I was wondering if you had any maybe reflections on the intersectionality of creativity and divine inspiration. I know this is something I've talked about with communities before, but like really tapping into the loop as the source of, or realizing that it is the source of creativity and the refining.
MashaAllah. MashaAllah is very beautiful. I mean, there's a lot that could be said about that. Raise your hand if you're a doctor and engineer. Inshallah. It's very interesting because I know that in many Muslim cultures, you're a failure if you're not a doctor or engineer. You're not going to marry someone's daughter, you're not going to. And what's interesting, I was reflecting with a number of friends, because many of the people that embrace Islam tend to, if you have noticed, come from creative backgrounds. Artists, and particularly musicians, which is hilarious, because then you get Muslims like, no music. But music is how I tasted the beauty of creation and Allah. Anyway. And I once talked to a friend of mine who was a jazz musician before he was a Muslim, and then he's an imam, and I said, what do you think it is? And he said, well, musicians are people that devote themselves to the unseen. And so you come to know experientially there's something more. Even if you're not sure what it is, you experience it. And the human being is a profound reality. And all traditions unanimously affirm this. And even modern secular, like psychology, right? You have depth psychology, you have, the subconscious and the unconscious. And the human being is as a good analogy, as an iceberg. And with just the tip is above. When you look at someone, what do you really know about them? You see, okay, you can ascertain a few details, their skin color, maybe you can guess their nationality, their sense of style, their subculture, where they might be from, whether they're religious or not, maybe. You don't really. But really who a person is beneath the surface. And there's a saying in Arabic that people are hidden beneath their tongues. When they speak, they reveal themselves. So it's like that. And so when, but there's a profound depth. The heavens and the earth cannot contain me, but the heart of my believing servant can contain me. Allah said that. What does that mean? Who are we? Right? The servant draws near to me by the obligatory action. He continues to draw near by the supererogatory actions until I love him. And when I love him or her, I become the eye with which he sees, the ear with which he hears, the tongue, the hand with which he grasps, the foot with which he walks. Sahih Hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, Hadith Qudsi. So, okay, what is the human being? And clearly look at what human beings create as far as architecture and poems and even down to fabrics and clothing and cities and symphonies and great works of art and etc., in different cultures, and look at the plethora of the expression of the human soul. That human beings brought all of this from the unseen into the seen or the experience. And Allah is beautiful and loves beauty. And Allah is Al-Khaliq, the creator. And Allah loves that we take on his most beautiful names. And the Prophet ﷺ is the perfect embodiment of Allah's divine name. So, I think of poetry, for me, it's been a means for me to dive deeper into the ocean within. And primarily, it's not about self-expression, it's about self-discovery. And I've actually came to understand myself in ways that I never would have had access to in other ways. And so, I think it's really important, obviously. And, the Prophet was someone who loved beauty and loved the arts, and particularly loved poetry. We could talk about that. But we need to be people of beauty. We need to create beauty. And every one of us is an artist. I would essentially say, just because you don't write poems or you don't... being a believer is an artist. It's an art. Islam is an art. And the art is to have a Muhammadan heart. On the canvas of your soul, to draw the attributes of the Prophet ﷺ and draw the names of the divine. So each one of us is an artist. You are a painter. Each moment you make a mark. And when you die, you step out of the painting and look at your art. Yawm al-Qiyamah, we get to see, each one of us gets to see our work of art. Your book is your work of art. That's you. You're an artist. This deen is an art. The art of being a Muslim, So, and as a believing artist, it's not just an identity piece, where we copy popular songs and, put in little, Islamic terms. Hey, I pray 5 times a day. Yay. And that's fine, but we need to get deeper than that. Because it's a means to know Allah. And may we be people of that, inshallah. And, we talk about how people don't, they have a bad opinion of Islam, but go into any major museum in the world and look at how big their Islamic art section is. They are infatuated with the arts of Muslims, and yet ask yourself, if one of your children wanted to be an artist or an artisan or weave those beautiful tapestries, how would you feel? Is this a past thing or is this a living reality? So, alhamdulillah.
Sister has a question.
Yes, sister.
I was just going to ask, can you share about your courses online that you...
MashaAllah, thank you for asking me that. Ahlan wa So, sister, is it Samar? Samar asked about my courses online. So, we have an online institute called Rumi Center for Spirituality and the Arts. And so far we've been doing courses on writing and really on what we just talked about. So the course is called Opening the Eye of the Heart. And it's a contemplative writing course. Instead of creative writing, everyone talks about creative writing, this is more contemplative, so it's reflective. And we're really looking at writing as spiritual practice. So we're looking at many of the great poets and poems of the Islamic tradition. And then I'm giving exercises for writing, and we all come together. It's 30 days, so each day I give a different poem, and everybody writes a poem a day. There's some people in this room that are in it or have done it. I don't know if Sarah's still here, but yeah, she's here. A number of other people, forgive me if Sabrina's in it right now, mashallah. So we've had people from all over the world, and we've had about like almost 100. We're in a course right now. So we do, between, 20, 30 each course, 35. Anyway, it's been really meaningful because it's not just about learning that, but it's about creating a community of people that are, walking the spiritual path and creatives and want that to be part of it together. And it's for people that, there's established poets, there's people that have never written, there's people that are artists in other domains, but, so it's for everybody. And we're actually doing a special course for Rabi al-Awwal, which is focusing on poems in praise of the Prophet. So we'll look at some of the Sahaba like Ka'b ibn Zuhayr or Hassan bin Thabit. We'll look at Imam al-Busiri. We'll look at some of the great poems that praise the Prophet in the past. And then we'll also look at some contemporary poets and musicians that praise the Prophet. And then we'll write and give exercise. So actually, it hasn't been officially announced. It probably will be October 1st. But we have some flyers in the back. So if anybody wants to sign up, there's a pre-registration now, which is like significantly discounted.
What are the daily commitment hours?
So each day you have to read a poem and write a poem. So however long that would take you. I mean, it could take you 5 minutes if you really want. But if you have more, it's better. And I really encourage that the poem is like a daily contemplation to really reflect on it. And then each week, there's a series of videos that I do and short readings. So I try to make it that, if you only have a half hour a day, that's fine. But if you want to go deeper, you can. And then every week we do one live session together on Zoom. So that's about an hour. So it's not too much. But if you want to go deep, there's enough there as well.
I had a question. So what moved you to found the Rumi Center for Spirituality and the Arts? And why spirituality and the arts? And then how does that connect with Rumi?
Rumi he happens to be, someone who's beloved to our people, to American people, by and large. And it's kind of hard to find a lot of Muslim figures like that. You might say Muhammad Ali, you might say Malcolm X, and you might say a few others, but there's not a lot. And Maulana Rumi is someone who uniquely in human history combines that of a spiritual master. I mean, he was a Hanafi faqih and deeply trained in all the Islamic sciences. Spiritual guide on the path, and also a master of the highest level of artistic creativity and discipline. And he was also the door for me to become Muslim. And I really see that he's a door for so many people. And his words are incredibly vast and universal. He has this universal flavor. That's why he's so beloved. I mean, if you go to his urs, when, every year in December they celebrate his passing, and there's people from all over the world. Of course, there's people from Pakistan and India and Iran, but there's people from France and Japan, and it's breathtaking. Muslims, non-Muslims. And that's how he was in his life, in fact. And this is important and this is why I think he's really important for us, because he lived in Anatolia at a time where it was newly Islamicized, relatively new. So the Muslims were there and the Muslims ruled it, but there's a lot of non-Muslims too. And even the many Central Asian tribal steppe peoples that embraced Islam, they still had a lot of their shamanic, pre-Islamic practices, but they were Muslim. So he had to speak to a diverse range of people. coming from very different worldviews and perspectives. And we also have to do that. And so for me, that's why he's so important. And he's not the only one, there's many others, but he is an exemplar of that. And so I really also believe that emphasizing beauty and the arts is really central and important. You know, we live in a time where people don't want to hear sermons. They don't want to get lectured at, right? They're turning away from church. They're turning away from the mosque. They're turning away from religion, right? The fastest growing religion is not Muslim, as Muslims like to quote, but it's spiritual but not religious, not aligned. And these aren't people that disbelieve in God, but they're just fed up with organized, institutionalized religion. And they want to connect with God. And so Rumi speaks to those people, one, and also beauty and art and creativity and, you know, aesthetic beauty. So those are some of the reasons. Yeah.
Any other questions or comments before we go?
Yes.
So I am your student, I was studying, but I see write poetry performance. And for me, one of the hardest things is reading other people's works and then having the confidence to share my own. Because as an artist, you never quite feel like it's done or it's finished, or it's complete. And working with words is tricky because you're always looking for the most succinct, the most concise, the most perfect way to say what you want to say and express what you want to express. So I'm just wondering if you could share how you dealt with that in your own journey. I've heard you perform many poems over years, and so I'm wondering if your relationship changed with the piece over time.
Mashallah. That's a great question. Yeah, I think of each piece as a living piece. So even the pieces that are in books, they will change over time based on how they land, and it might be subtle things like a pause here, or an instead of there. But it's always a work in progress, and you have to let go of perfection, because in fact, you're always describing. Basically, you will always fail. A poet will always fail to say what he's trying to say, because the realm of experience is always transcendent above language. Language is always a step down, but it can also help people step up, you know. And so when you let go of that, then you can actually enjoy the process, and you can enjoy it. And actually you're in good company, because Rumi, for instance, has many lines where he'll have these beautiful, beautiful, like, exquisite lines, and then he'll say, like, I don't know, I must be quiet, because everything I'm saying is wrong. Like, he gets frustrated with his ability to express, so you're in good company with that. And it's important to, like, fall in love with the process, you know, and not be attached to the end so much, because it's actually you got to fall in love. I'm sure you do, as like to enjoy writing the actual piece. But sharing is a really interesting thing. You know, it's a really subtle thing, and it's something that I've thought about this a lot. I think you just have to fall in love, because if someone told me I could never recite again, perform, I wouldn't like that, because I actually enjoy it, but I'd be okay. But if someone told me I could never receive a poem again, that would crush me. So it's actually, you get to experience it first, and that's the actual great joy of it. And to be a witness to it, and to play with that, and to explore that. And, you know, for people to say, like, I'm not a poet or this and that, I always think, you know, we want to get back to that, like, childlike innocence. If you give a child a piece of paper and some crayons, right, the child will not be like, sorry, I'm not an artist, I can't. But something happens to us. Like, what happens that we say, no, I can't. And likewise with poetry, it's like, never think that. And it's not a claim to say I'm a poet. It's human. to be expressive. It might be claim to say I'm a good poet or a great poet, but you see what I'm saying? So, yeah, Allah inspire you, John.
I was just in with this last question from Khalil Mahsen, came all the way from Philadelphia, like so many.
But I'd like you to share something with your brother who really means a lot to you. I was with him. And I'm always inspired by who know their approach, but still had me non-verbal expressions that I can't even share with you. But
Yes.
this is good. So I appreciate it. You had some exchange with him, he influenced you.
Yeah, so our brother is mentioning Daniel Abdahai Moore, who was a beat poet. He was born in Oakland, California, and he was of that generation of beat poets. He was a bit younger, but he was published by Lawrence Ferlinghetti and City Lights Books, along with those like Jack Kerouac and Allen Ginsberg and the great beat poets, who many of them were seekers, and they were kind of like the pre-hippies. They were in the 50s, right? So they were but they were open to Eastern mysticism, traditions, and counterculture. And they were seekers. So he was a young, kind of shining star in that world. And he actually was a playwright, and they had something in Berkeley called, I think, the Floating Lotus Magic Opera House, where they put on kind of bizarre plays and things of this nature. But very talented, beautiful person, and he, again, was drawn to Rumi and he was, kind of doing like Zen, meditation, all these type of things, and a specific teacher who was a representative of Sheikh Mohammed ibn al-Habib, North African sheikh, came actually to them and started telling them about Islam and telling them about Sufism, and told them, he said, there's a great unbroken lineage of prophets all the way back from the time of Adam that goes through Jesus and Moses and Muhammad, and since then there's an unbroken lineage of inheritors in the prophet who are still living, and I'm a representative of one of them. And they're like, far out, right? Cool, okay. He told me that, and so they embraced Islam, and they were like living in a hippie commune in Berkeley, and when he embraced Islam, he said that the sheikh told him, okay, you have to go make ghusl now, like take a shower. And so he went into the bathroom of the commune, and there was a number of people in the bathtub. A number of people in the bathtub, I repeat. And he said, excuse me, I have to get in. I said, come on in. He said, no, not like that, like, get out so I can dance. MashaAllah. He told these things publicly, by the way. So, amazing man. And then he went to North Africa and they had a community, by the way, in Spain. It's really important history for Muslims in the West. That was people like Dr. Omar Farooq Abdullah, Sheikh Hamza Yusuf were part of it, the photographer Peter Sanders, Hakeem Archuleta, Abdul Bari McCabe, the list goes on. Even Muhammad Sharif was a part of that. I mean, it's a fascinating chapter of history. But and so he was a great Muslim American poet, a great Muslim American poet, and he inspired me a lot. And he was one of my mentors. And actually, my book is dedicated to him. And what did he share with me? He was somebody, like you say, who was one of the most authentically inspiring people I've ever met, in awe at all times. And that's what I would say to people, like for instance, that maybe I got from him, even without him saying it, is that poetry is not just writing lines, but it's an eye. It's a way of seeing. And it's also how, as believers, we are encouraged to see too, because it's seeing everything as a symbol, everything as a sign, everything as a type of speech, and drawing connections and metaphors. And, right? William Blake has the line, to see a world in a grain of sand and heaven in a wildflower. Hold if infinity in the palm of your hand and eternity in an hour. To really take in existence. And he was someone like that. So even if you aren't someone who writes poems, as believers, we should be people that see with that poetic eye of meaning. Inshallah. Definitely.
Thank you very much.
We close with the dua.
So I want to say thank you very much for coming, and on behalf of the Muslim Center of Greater Princeton, we want to say, may Allah reward you with everlasting good. Jazakumullah khairan for taking time out of your really busy schedule. And I want to thank each and every one of you. Some of you have come from New York and Philadelphia and other parts of New Jersey. We really, really thank you for taking time on this Friday evening to spend with us at the Muslim Center. We hope it's not your last time here. And we plan to have many programs like this. I think Muhammad Amin already mentioned that in October we're going to be having a poetry event with spoken word poets like Mona Majid and others, like Muhammad Amin al-Fasi. Is Husna here? Is Husna here from UPenn? No? Okay. And we want to let everyone know that in August, we established the monthly Rumi Circle. Has anyone attended that here? So it's the last Wednesday of every month at 8 p.m. The last Wednesday of every month at 8 p.m. We have our dear beloved Dr. Abdurrahman Abd, who is a lover of Rumi, an expert on Rumi, and who's written 6 books. He has a book on Shikwa and Jawab al-Shikwa, his own translation of Allama Iqbal's poetry, and he's added his own shikwats to that, so we encourage you to come. It's amazing who shows up. You know, people who usually you wouldn't see at the masjid come, and so we want to invite you to that the last Wednesday of every month here at the Muslim Center. I want to say thank you to Sister Shaesta for this beautiful arrangement. She put this together, alhamdulillah. And we want to thank our young people, Muhammad Amin, Sidra, Sister Samin, for their support, their recording, their MCing, selling the books. Please, if you don't have, thank you, yes. Yeah, please give them a round of applause. If you have not purchased any of Baraka Blue's books, please. We don't want any books left on that table when we leave here tonight. And let me just make sure I got everything here. Of course.
I forgot to mention, I'll be in Homedale on Sunday, and in the daytime we'll be doing a writing workshop. So if anybody wants to join, Sarah has information. Raise your hand so yeah, she has information. You can also find out my social media, Facebook and Instagram. So if you're interested in writing with us, come join. I think it's about an hour or so away, so yeah.
Yeah, please support that event. Also, there's a lot of women here tonight. We are starting a women's only halaqa led by my wife, Ustad Yaqub. That'll be this Thursday at 10 a.m. and on Saturdays at 10 a.m. I will pop in towards the end just to share a few words of reflection from the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ. And so we're really excited about this program. Just meet us in the lobby, inshallah. There'll be sisters here Thursday at 10 and Saturday at 10. And Sidra, you have something to give Baraka Blue. So this is on behalf of the youth at the Muslim Center of Greater Princeton, and on behalf of our masjid. Alhamdulillah. This is Zishan Qureshi, the one and only, mashallah. Yeah, so these are flowers that were picked around the grounds. Alhamdulillah. So again, thank you very much. We'll close with a dua. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم اللهم صل على ساداتنا آدم ونوح وإبراهيم وموسى وعيسى بن مريم ومن بينهم من النبيين والمرسلين صلى الله وسلامهم عليهم أجمعين. O Allah, we seek the blessings and the help of your name, Allah, the unconditionally loving, the compassionate Redeemer. O Allah, we ask that you send blessings and peace upon our beloved leader Muhammad and upon his immaculate family and noble companions, and upon our masters Adam and Noah, Abraham, Moses, Jesus, the son of Mary, and all the prophets and messengers that came before Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. O Allah, we thank you for the gift of our brother Ahmed James Baraka. O Allah, we thank you for his poetry and the poets that came before him, and the poets that shall come after him from those who believe and those who do good deeds. O Allah, we ask that you make us people of beauty, O Allah. We ask that you make us people who create art for your pleasure, Ya Allah. O Allah, we ask that you give everyone that is here the success to fulfill their purpose, to fulfill their meaning, O Allah. O Allah, we ask that you grant us the blessing of this night to make it a proof for us and not against us on the Day of Judgment. O Allah, we ask that you make this a gathering of compassionate love, and that our dispersal after it is protected by you, and that there not be among us any who is damned, wretched, or cut off from your mercy, Ya Allah. Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, we ask that you heal us and that you heal our sick, that you have mercy upon our deceased, and that you give liberation from those who are in bondage, and that you enrich those that are poor, and that you give company to those that are lonely, and that you give strength to those that are weak and vulnerable, and that you give justice to those who are oppressed, Ya Rabbal Alameen. Oh Allah, you know our needs more than we know them ourselves. We ask that you fulfill our needs, Ya Allah, through your generosity and through your gentle kindness. Bi lutfik wa judik wa karamik, Ya Rabbal Alameen. Oh Allah, we pray for our men, our women, and our children, that you give us success in this life to do what you love and are pleased with, that you protect us from the evil and the harm of this world, and that you drive to us every good and every benefit and every advantage in this world and in the hereafter, Ya Rabbal Alameen. Oh Allah, we ask that you strengthen the bonds of brotherhood and sisterhood between us, that you bring our hearts together, Ya Allah. Allahumma alif bayna qulubina, Allahumma alif bayna qulubina, Allahumma alif bayna qulubina, Ya Aziz, Ya Hakim. We ask that you give everyone safe return to their families, to their homes, to their property, Ya Rabbal Alameen, and that you make us from among those who are beloved to you, Ya Allah, and that we die saying and believing, La ilaha illallah, Sayyiduna Muhammad Rasulullah, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Let us all recite together with the intention of acceptance and to the prophetic presence. Al-Fatiha. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الرحمن الرحيم. مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Amen, amen, amen. Thank you all for coming. Have a blessed night. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Yeah. I'll come outside. Okay?
Oh, there. Like what? There too, bud. How are you guys? आप बताएं आपका एजेंट कहाँ गया वो तो हमें मैसेज कर रहा था कि make sure you come नहीं I just तो मैंने पूरा मार्क्स Oh, he was. Oh, okay. I think he just wanted to talk to me. No.